utter Worldie. In this episode, called Top Players, I talk with Alan Randall, who's one of the most knowledgeable and charismatic people I know in the game. He has played, managed and now scouting at the highest level. He's advised Premiership clubs such as Tottenham Hotspur and Watford Football Club on team tactical analysis and on the recruitment of players. We discuss what scouts look for in players alongside research and statistical data in the context of player-specific positions, team formation and examples from the Premiership. Welcome, Alan. What I'd like to do is start with a quote by Vince Lombardi, who was a well-known American football coach. He said, "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." What I'd like you to do is go through what Premiership clubs are looking for in players.
Let me say that the most important characteristic in any player is his character and his temperament. So first of all, without character and without a good temperament, you're not going to get a good player. But obviously, I think all clubs, and I've worked at Tottenham, I've been at Watford now for 20 years, I think most clubs or all clubs would look at four key elements of a good player. So we would look at his physical profile, the mental side of the player, including his intelligence, his composure, his calmness, etc. And then the third element would be the tactical awareness of the player, positional play, creating space for himself, etc., etc. And then obviously he needs to have really good technical ability to play at the top level. So he needs those four important characteristics, but if he hasn't got the character and the right temperament, then he's going to fail. I can give examples, Rich, if you want me to.
Yeah, that'd be good. I was just thinking there, do they quantify that? So in terms of your opinion might be the technical opinion, but do they quantify attitude in terms of like a scale or anything like that?
Yes, because we all have our own platforms that we enter our reports into. So from a scouting perspective, you would attend the game and then the following morning you would be on your PC for maybe an hour and a half. And we have our own report system that we have to compile. And having worked for several different directors of football, they have their own styles, their own mannerisms, their own way of working. So I just adapt to whoever I'm working for. So we may scale these players from, say, it may be A, B, C. It might be different ways of scaling them. So when the report's compiled and finished, the head of recruitment can look into the report and he can check all these attributes. So the attribute regarding his physical profile, the way the game's being played, although there's a lot of tremendous amount of football being played on the floor, the ball's on the floor, it's being passed through the lines, it goes out wide, teams keep possession, but the physical profile, you have to be athletic. You need to be athletic in all positions. You need strength to hold people off, to win challenges. You need to be able to play at high intensity. If you look at the top sides, these boys are tremendous athletes. They can get up and down. They can get all over the pitch. And if you look at an average week when the lads are at the training ground with their GPS vest on, we're logging what they run, the distances they run, the sprints they do. So you're looking at a real good athletic player, somebody that can get around the pitch. The mental side of things, I call it intelligence. They class it as looking at the mental side of the player. But you need intelligent players that have got great intelligence. They've got great composure on the ball. That they can see the picture in their head. They can read the game. So many examples. Maybe the best example is Kevin De Bruyne at Manchester City. Clever, intelligent, does everything the right way. So that we would look very, very strongly at the mental side of things. The tactical thing is something that we have to look at in detail because we need to know whether the player can he create his own space, let alone can he create space for other players. If he plays in the back four, his positional play, in relation to his fellow defenders. If he's a number 10, does he take up the correct positions? Does he work the space? Is he running behind? So we're looking at all these things, and then the technical ability to play at the very top end, where I've been working in the Championship and with Tottenham in the Premier League. They've got to be good technicians. They've got to be able to handle the football. They need to be able to play in tight areas. They need to be able to get on the half turn as quick as they can, open up their body and drive forward with the ball. They call it now jumping into the space, where they drive forward and then they start bouncing 1-2s off the strikers or playing balls out wide. So there's a lot of components there. There's a lot of attributes that we're looking at, a lot of key attributes there. But I can't stress enough that the character is so important. As you could sort of underline it, as if they haven't got the character and they haven't got the temperament to be a professional, then they're going to be no good to us. So I would say that prior to signing anybody, we do a lot of work on due diligence. We look at medical history. We look at their disciplinary record. We look at all things. We look at their social media backgrounds. So by the time we're making a bid or an offer on a player, we've got everything we need to know about the boy.
Got you. Okay, so it's technical, but also athleticism, performance data, characters, and so on. So maybe perhaps I'm thinking of an example was Arteta and Edu at Arsenal, looking at Ramsdale. So Ramsdale perhaps wasn't the most coveted player, but when with chips were down and things weren't going so well, it was his attitude perhaps that stood him apart from other goalkeepers at the same level. Would that be a fair example?
Absolutely. I looked at the boy when he was on loan at Wimbledon. I thought he was erratic. I thought his decision making was poor. I think some of his starting positions were questionable in terms of being maybe too high up when the opposition when his own side was taking corners and free kicks. I found in a couple of games he got caught out badly, and I think a couple of times people tried to chip him and stuff like that. He was erratic. We did a bit of work on him, on his background and where he came from. And I know Arsenal have done a lot of work. The psychiatrist or the people working at Arsenal are working really hard on the mental side of his game, because he can be erratic, he can make mistakes, he can get quite angry or upset if things are not going his way. So he's not a calm goalkeeper. He's still got a lot to do in terms of being calm. Like, for argument's sake, Edison for me is everything a goalie should be in terms of height, build, temperament, character, using his feet, etc., etc. So you're right about you're certainly right about Ramsdale. It's a classic case of character, temperament. If you haven't got those fundamental basics or attributes, you're going to struggle to crack it at the top level.
Okay, so for your point of view, then, so Edison would cover all of the aspects required for a top level keeper in each element.
Everything, Richard. I can't honestly. Yeah. I know it's very easy for me to sit here and talk about Edison and De Bruyne and all these top players, Haaland. But if we're gonna look at role models and we're gonna learn, then you look at Edison's composure. There's a composure about the lad. In a recent game, the last game they played, he was getting knocked around on set plays, kept calm, kept laughing, takes crosses as high as he can take them, releases the ball quickly, gets it out wide quickly. His kicking is from another planet. I don't know if he comes from a different planet to other goalkeepers, but his distribution, his diagonals. I mean, some of the diagonals, like off to the left and off to the right, are just unbelievable. And he can play from the back. He's happy to play tippy-tappy football in his own box with his own defenders. He's that confident. And when you need him to make a save, he will make a save. And I understand it's very difficult when I go to these grounds and watch these players, but I know for a fact that he's a very, very good communicator, although you can't hear this at the ground, but he's a very, very good communicator. Starting positions, distribution, handling of crosses, command of his box. If I was ticking him, Richard, on all aspects of being a goalkeeper, I'm pretty sure I'd be ticking him like mostly 10 out of 10 on all attributes that's required to be a top keeper.
Perfect. I was just about to do that. It's just sort of look over exactly what you said. So distribution, physicality,
yes,
ability,
yes,
command in his area, crosses.
yes.
It covers and ticks all of those boxes from your point of view. So that would perhaps be a good example.
Yes.
If you were to aspire to a level, that would perhaps be your example, would it?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I mean, yes, of course, my job, my remit takes me down into the Championship. It takes me to Division 1, Division 2, which I enjoy. But you're not going to see that type of goalkeeper playing at Stevenage, because the game plan would be a lot different in terms of when the keeper gets the ball at Stevenage, the back four get up as quick as they can, and then the goalkeeper kicks it as far as he can, and then they play in the final third. So the Edisons are tailor-made for... I can give you another example, Rich, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Well, Nick Pope is outstanding, as you'd expect, in terms of shot stopping. That goes without saying, that he can make good saves and he's good in the air. But his footwork, if you watch him carefully, I've got a sneaky feeling that they may have to change keepers eventually if they want to start from the back, because he's not very good with his feet. He hasn't got great feet. He hasn't got a great stature. He hasn't got great... It sounds ever so cruel, but he hasn't got great legs. He's a little bit odd around the lower waist, and I've watched him kick balls into touch, which you normally see at non-league level. You don't often see that in the Premier League. So I hope I'm wrong, because I like the boy in terms of shot stopping, crosses, etc. Very agile, but nowhere near where he should be in terms of a Premier League keeper for using his feet and, playing out from the back. I'm guessing that if you went to City's training ground, Edison would be for sure playing in six-a-side, small-sided games all the time. Once he's done his goalkeeping duties, he will go in and play as an outfield player because he's that good. But I'm thinking about Nick Pope. If he went into a small-sided, six-a-side keep ball session, I think you find the boy would struggle really bad. So if you're going to play that way, you must make sure the keeper that you're getting is very, very comfortable with the ball in his feet. Otherwise, yeah.
And I think in times gone by, you might be able to make up for indifferences or things that you weren't so good at. So perhaps you were a good shot, an excellent shot stopper, but weren't great on the floor. Whereas nowadays you have to be 9 or 10 out of 10 in most areas, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good example. So let's move on then to let's say right back. What would you be looking for in terms of right backs?
Well, right backs, it obviously depends on the way you set up. So if you're looking at teams that set up 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, your right back is somebody that's gonna get on as much as he can. He's allowed to in that system. So what would happen? An example, if Bakary Saka was on the ball at Arsenal wide right, even though he's left-footed, that's where they play him. Once Bakary Saka comes inside, it's a trigger for Ben White to go down the outside of him. So you need your full-backs to be able to get forward, which means that they need to be fit enough to play at high intensity because, again, going back to basics, if these lads can't do a 60-yard gallop forward or a sprint forward and a 60-yard sprint back and then do the same again, they're up and down all the time. So when the ball's dead, they get their first chance to rest and recover. But I'm illustrating Ben White, who is a centre-back, but a normal right-back would be expected to go forward. Now, when you go forward and you're in advanced positions, you have to have the ability to cross the ball on the run. So if runs are being made in the box from front players attacking the near post or front players coming around the back or just doing a little crossover, you want that right back to get his head up and deliver a really good ball either to the back post, which takes out the goalkeeper, or whipped into the front post, which is for the first run coming across the defender. So you need good ability on the ball in the final third. But more importantly for me, because perhaps you could call me a little bit of a defensive coach, I like my right back to be able to defend first and foremost. So as long as he can defend one-on-ones and make the right decisions. Now, there's three things for me personally that I look at and we look at Watford and we did at Spurs is three decisions you make when you're out wide and people are coming after you with the ball. Now, there's three decisions you make. Do you stand up? Do you jockey, stand up, show him the line, show him inside, whatever the game plan is? Do you jump in and make a challenge, which is dangerous, or do you just stay there and do you just stay there and jockey him up and hold him up? So there's decisions to be made on what to do, whether to press hard, go and make a tackle, or stand up. Obviously, your body shape determines which way he goes. So we want our fullbacks. I tend to talk about Spurs more than Watford, but the fullbacks at Tottenham defend the touchline, make the right decisions when they had to, no jumping in, no silly rash challenges, be intelligent and stay on your feet, Rich. Very, very important, stay on your feet. If you're looking at boys that are going to ground all the time and they're picking up and they're going to ground, they're poor defenders. Stay on your feet, make the right decision on press, tackle, stand up or make a quick challenge on him. So you need to be intelligent on your defending. Your defending shape needs to be good in relation to your centre-backs. You've always got to be in tune on if you're playing a high line, you look across the line to make sure that you're not going to play people on side. So you need to be intelligent, you need to be athletic, you need to make good decisions at the right time. And when you do the dangerous run going forward, it's no good getting forward if you can't deliver the ball properly. So whip it into the front post, stand it up at the back stick. And then for me, you've got a pretty good fullback if you put all them compilations together.
Perfect. And I'm thinking back to when I was playing. I think as I got older, perhaps I would make less tackles.
Yes.
And I think, and that may be actually related as well. Perhaps I wasn't as quick or as athletic rather, but I think decision making was better. So in a game, maybe when I was 19, 20, I might make 4 or 5 tackles, but it was certainly half that 5-10 years later in terms of actually how many tackles you may make in a game.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's speaking of centre halves then now, let's move on to centre halves.
Yes.
What would you be looking for?
They're changing, Rich. The game's changing. The coaches are changing. Okay, so a few years back, we would be saying for sure that Sol Campbell, and going back beyond that, we'd be saying Tony Adams were top centre-backs. We would say that John Terry was a top centre-back. The only fault on John, could have done with another yard of pace, but it's changing now. It's changing now because John Stones, who you could argue now his role's changed because he's coming into midfield more, coming inside, but centre-backs need to be quick, they need to read situations, but they need to be very, very comfortable on the ball. I think the days of centre-backs hitting the channel early, like I used to do when I played, I think the centre-back's role now is very much calm and composed, take the ball off your keeper if you're playing out from the back, even be prepared at times to take the ball into midfield if the space opens up. You need to be intelligent, you need to be clever. You needed to be really good in the air years ago. And Rich, you was a centre-back and I was a centre-back. And our main job, my main job, your main job was, correct me if I'm wrong, to win those headers, win those challenges. But the game's changing. They're not heading it as much as they used to. And they're on their feet a lot more. And they have to stand up, make good decisions. When do I press? When do I tackle? When do I just jockey up? So loads of good decisions to be made. If you're asking me about centre-backs, then if you look at John Stones, the way he's playing, even though he's pushing into midfield, the boy's a really, really good player. So intelligence, heading ability, passing the ball is so important now if you start from the back. So there's a lot of fundamentals there that are changing as the game evolves. The game's evolving. There's different types of centre-backs coming through now. We're not seeing the big, strong, robust centre-backs. I think it's slightly changing where, especially on the continent, the good centre-backs now are footballers, so they're starting from the back with the ball. So be comfortable with the ball, have good vision, good awareness, and be able to pass it. So there's a lot of things you need to be able to do to be a good centre-back in the modern game.
Okay, and then so aerial ability is perhaps less, not less
yes.
important, it's not... In a way, if we had to say, obviously it's a bonus, but perhaps nowadays less so because the ball is in the air less, would you say?
The ball is in the air less. If you're watching, we have to be careful because at the top level, the ball's on the floor a lot more. There's going to be set plays. If you play away at certain grounds, you're going to be under pressure. from set plays coming in. There's still teams that like doing that. So you still need that way of playing. But things are changing. But I think we're all adapting with the times. To be honest, Rich.
So it's similar to when I look at Man City then. So they're able to cope with most situations. So if they need to be aerially strong, they are. And if they need to be good on the deck, they are, basically. So you cover all aspects of it. Would that be correct?
Yes, because what you do is when you put the team together, you need your tall players. You need a certain amount of tall players in your side. You need because otherwise you'll come unstuck at certain ground. So you need good aerial ability. So you'll always find at least 4 to 5 players with good height and good aerial ability. And when they set up on the corners, they set up mostly in a zonal system. So you put your big players where you think the ball's coming in, and the rest of your players you're just filling accordingly. But yeah, that was the way I would see that one personally.
Perfect. Okay, so then let's move on to the left-sided players then. So we've mentioned the right-sided defenders. So with the left-sided, how would they differ? They would obviously still meet the same criteria in most aspects, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. They certainly would. I mean, if you're playing in a 4, obviously you want a right foot, left foot. For some reason, I don't know what this is, and I don't know the answer to this, but for some reason, the left-footed centre-back looks better on the ball. And I read somewhere once, or I had a discussion with some good people that they got more passing opportunities with their foot. They can see I don't really know why that would be, but they just look more comfortable, more classy on the ball with their left foot. They've got so many different passing ranges, so many places they can go. Although I've looked into this myself, and I don't really see a massive difference between the two. But yeah,
would it be anything to do with angles, Al?
Yes, it is.
Out loud,
yeah, I think you're right, Rich. I think it 100% angles. It's for some reason the pitch seems bigger to him, if that makes sense. And again, I've looked into it, and I've asked a lot of good people different questions, and no one's really given me a definitive answer. But they seem to have, I don't know, Jan Vertonghen at Tottenham used to look like he had more places to go, better passing angles. I don't know why that is, but there's a lot of right-sided central defenders, but there seems to be a shortage of top left-sided defenders. I often go to games in the Championship, and sometimes right across the back 4, I can see all right-footed players, which is pretty scary, really. Even at left back, where they have to come inside.
Yeah, no. The reason I say angles, because I remember when I was playing, is that when I was on the right side, if I had the option to use my left as well, the trajectory was a lot greater. So I just wonder, being on the left side, having that angle has a variable or difference.
Yes,
perhaps creating that difference.
Yes.
And also the way they kick a ball, it tends to move slightly different. It curves away from players when they're passing a side pass.
Yes.
To be a little bit different. So I hear what you're saying.
It's definitely a technical function or feature that they've got, and I think when you look at the balance of a back 4, or you do get a lot of back 3s now, but you're not on my travels. I'm not seeing an abundance of good left-sided central defenders. I'm seeing a lot of games in the Championship, which I cover a hell of a lot, the Championship, and sometimes you see 2 right-sided central defenders in a 4, and sometimes you might see a 3, and you think, wow, where are the? Well, listen, if we could produce more left-sided central defenders, I mean, sometimes England play and Stones are play on the right of Maguire. There's no left foot there, is there?
No.
So it's something I think we need to address. I don't think there's an abundance of good left-sided central defenders personally. If there is, I'm not seeing them.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to, before we move on to midfield, I just wanted to add a bit of data to this. So I was looking at a review article by Bangsbo et al. In 2014, and they did match analysis and performance data. And what they noticed, or what the data showed, was that the difference between top class players and those at a lower level was the amount of high speed running that they would do in a game.
Yes.
So, for example, international top class players perform 28% more higher intensity and running, and 58% more sprinting than professional players at a lower level rather. So I think what I'm trying to say there is, we're moving into, say, we're talking about midfield, the intensity is different with the players at a higher level in terms of speed and movement. So, say for example, in a game, it's been shown in a Premier League game that players will make 700 turns on average.
Yes.
In a game between 0 and 90 degrees, and they would cover between 10 and 13 kilometres. And that's not specifically for position, but that's more general data. So what I'm trying to add in there is the difference between the top class players and the ones that are lower level, perhaps, is the athletic element to it. Would you agree with that? With that data?
100%, Rich. I mean, the way the game's evolved, the technology involved, and the way they measure things, even training. I mean, they're wearing the GPS vest for training. So they're handed in when they finish their sessions, and they're analysed. And then the following day or 2 days down the line, the medical, the backup team would be telling the first team coaches that in their opinion, you shouldn't. This particular player, he needs to come out the session after 30, 40 minutes, because if he goes beyond that, there's a risk of hamstrings and groins going. So the technology in the game is absolutely incredible. I know for a fact that where I work now at Watford, they get a lot of suggestions from the medical team about certain players, because once the session is finished, the training sessions are finished, these vests are handed in, and then they're analysed, and then they come out the following day. And I think we got to the point where the medical team are telling the coaches the following day before the session starts, a good couple of hours prior to that such and such a player, in their opinion, just needs to work for half an hour. If he goes beyond that, we could be looking at groins and hamstrings. So that's where we are. The technology that's out there, and you'll often see games where City are doing ever so well, playing ever so well, and Man City, for argument's sake, and Pep make changes around about 60 minutes, and the player's got the hump. He doesn't want to come off, the player, Kevin De Bruyne, but it's a medical advice that's coming before the game. So irrespective of the scoreline, Kevin De Bruyne is coming off after an hour, whether he wants to or not. That's where we're at, I think, Rich.
That's perfect, because that's if we go on to back to the data. So with those high intensity sprints and their high intensity level, towards the end of the game, that is less so. So they're not performing at that level. So therefore, there's perhaps a reason for obviously injury prevention, but also performance as to why they do come off at that time.
Yes.
So with the differences in positions, so the wide midfield players, they're shown to cover the higher intensity running distance and a high intensity change of direction or movements.
Yes.
So they're perhaps accumulatively. If that they built that over a 60-minute period, then it's advisable to take them off because they've kind of reached that level. If you know what I mean. If you're looking at position differences, so that would be as to why that usually happens, or one of the reasons as to why that happens.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me then, if we mentioned wide midfield players, what would you be looking for?
Wide midfield players. If we're talking. I mean, I'm seeing lots of different systems. Some I really like at the moment. There's some sides in the Championship that are sort of playing 3-4-2-1, if you want. I know there's teams that do it the other way around and go 3-4-1-2, or it just depends. Two behind one or one behind two. But there's some good shapes. There's some good systems.
So if we were saying. If you were playing in a three, then three central midfield. Let's start with that. So your wider player, what would you expect the wider of the three be able to do? Because he might have to do a bit of both, mightn't he?
Yes. So if we're talking about a 4-3-3, Rich, or we're talking about
with a 4-3-3.
Well, go with a 4-3-3. Then it's a good system because there's so many variables there that you can use. But a 4-3-3. A holding midfield player would be the central one. That's like Declan Rice type role. And then the other two lads, their job would be to get up and down, to break forward, to join the attack, go beyond the attack. So many variables in that particular system, I feel. There's some very good systems out there at the moment, very good systems that are being employed. There's a lot of tactically very good coaches that are doing some really good things. I mean, I really, really like what Pep's doing with Stones, the way they change it very quickly. And Stones, goes into midfield on the right-hand side, which is something that the boy at Liverpool does now. He comes into midfield as well. And then the back three split. So the right-sided central defender now comes across and finds himself in right-back zones. But then they can slip back in quickly to whichever shape they like. But there's some very good coaching going on, Richard, at the moment at the top level. Aston Villa with Unai Emery, the man, the guy down at Brighton, Zeebury. Some of the stuff they're coming up with is fantastic to watch. It really is.
Okay, let's break it down perhaps then, as opposed to not overcomplicate it in terms of formations. If you looked at a central defensive midfielder, they've been shown to cover greater distances than attacking midfielders during games.
Yes.
If you were looking at someone, say, like Declan Rice,
yes.
If you were looking to buy this player, what attributes would you be looking for?
I think Declan probably. I think he's overpriced. I think £100 million for someone that doesn't score tons of goals and is not really involved in assists as he should be. But if we talk about the role that he plays at West Ham under Moyes, front screen, I call it. I call it a front screen. So he's protecting the back four. He's jumping in quickly, breaking up challenges. He's there to protect. He does rotate at times with these other two midfield players. He does break forward, I've noticed, and he does try and go on and create things. But it's an invaluable role. Even in the 4-3-3 system, he plays as the holding player with two advanced midfield players in front of him. I think he's probably as good as anybody in that particular role. Although if you're talking about that particular role where you sit in front screen, as I call it, you sit there, I don't think they come any better than Rodri at Man City in terms of keeping the ball and his passing range, his passing options. And they start from him, don't they? It's a pivotal player that starts most of their attacks, Rodri. Starts from him and normally finishes up in the goal, to be fair, Rich.
Yeah, and physically they've got good attributes physically, haven't they? But you look at both of them; they're probably about 6 foot.
Yeah,
not that you have to be, of course, but they are athletic, aren't they?
No, you've got different ones. You've got like a Xhaka, if you like, at Arsenal, Granit Xhaka that slacks maybe a little bit of pace, but good left foot. But he's in there and he breaks up play. He breaks up play and he uses the ball well, keeps it simple. But if you're talking about this particular type of player, then you can't look any further than Rodri. Great physical profile, doesn't give the ball away, breaks up play, comfortable in possession, great passing range. For me, he's the top one in there, and I think Declan's catching him up. Declan's got to add certain things to his game. But I've heard on the grapevine he could be going to Arsenal, and they may slightly adjust the way he plays, and he may be allowed in the system to break forward a little bit more than he does at West Ham. I think at West Ham he's more of a front screen and a protector, well, the other phrase that comes in now, the other saying is, a lot of clubs call these players the quarterback. I don't go along with that, but you won't. If you want a model, if you wanted to clone a player to do that role, you clone Rodri, I believe, at Man City.
Perfect. And then moving on from there, Al, so if you had a more a centre midfielder, more forward-thinking midfielder, what would you want or look for in them?
Well, Rich, I've got to be honest, if we are going to make comparisons and we're going to talk about what we'd like, or we've got it all at Man City, so I could sit here and I could give you illustrations on all their players. But if you're looking at Kevin De Bruyne, the way he makes his runs, the timing of the runs, his intelligence, his tactical intelligence, and he finishes up by scoring lots of goals from making clever runs. Kevin De Bruyne's got everything. So as an example, for young kids, if I was going to sit down in a room, like the technical room, and get the screen out, I'd do loads and loads of clips of Kevin De Bruyne, timing of the run, when to run, when not to run, and then losing the ball, under this system they've got where they try and get the ball back as quick as they can within 10 seconds. I think you look no further. So we're talking about Rodri doing a specific job, and now we're talking about Kevin De Bruyne doing a specific job in that particular role, I think.
And yeah, no, absolutely. And when I look at Kevin De Bruyne, His two-footedness always stands out to me.
Yes.
He's very two-footed. There isn't a weakness there, is there?
No.
So if we go back to talking about angles and finishing, perhaps touching on finishing now, he's got that ability, isn't he, with both feet?
It's just so
whereas
clever.
the other, perhaps the other defensive midfielders, that seems to be slightly different if we compare the ability on the ball, obviously, because that's more of an attribute needed for an attacking midfielder. But he's strong on both feet, isn't he?
Yes. I mean, as you say, the 6 tends to sit now. The 8 and 10 in a 4-3-3. The 8 and 10 like to get on. Lots of different systems being played by different coaches. Very good coaching in the Premier League at the moment. Top coaches from De Zerbi and Unai Emery at Aston Villa, and Thomas Frank at Brentford. They're coming up with some good ideas. There's lots of things I'm seeing that are different, and Arteta's trying things now that, like the inverted fullback, where the fullback now, Pep started the ball rolling, we're pushing John Stones in, and everybody's sitting in the stand wondering where Stones has gone. He's gone in there for a reason, and it also releases a midfield player to go that little bit further forward as well and cause a problem. Zinchenko at Arsenal is doing it from the left side. He's coming inside coming inside and being effective in that role. Although I find the boy personally, Zinchenko, a little bit unreliable with his passing, sometimes a little bit wayward. But all the examples we want, everything we need in a model, everything we need to learn from and look at. We just look at Man City, because I think from a personal point of view, I've been working at the top level for 20 years. This Manchester City side, for me personally, is the best team I've ever seen, including World Cups, your Brazils and your Hollands. This team's got everything. And if a player's got the flu or a player's got a hamstring, they just bring people in to replace them, having depth in their squad. So anything you want to learn about about football, how to play the game the right way, with the right temperament, technical ability, scoring goals, it's all there for you if you watch a tape of Manchester City.
Perfect. Nice one. Okay, let's move on then to a wider player. So
yes.
What would you be looking for? What example could you think of for a wider?
Well, we're looking at wide players at Watford at the moment, because the new gaffer wants to play like a system that's going to rely heavily. So in terms of wide players, obviously left foot, right foot, but what we're looking for is, can you play at high intensity? Because I do believe at Watford we'll be playing probably 3-4-1-2. I understand. So the wide players, the fitness levels have got to be exceptional. They've got to learn to play, or they've got to want to play at high intensity, which means 60-yard sprints, 50-yard dashes back. There's a lot of work to do. So the physical profile of the wide player now, you can give examples again on Kyle Walker when he plays as a right back. The physical profile of Kyle Walker is absolutely incredible. He can make run after run after run after run at high intensity. He can come back the other way at high intensity as well and catch people up. And he hardly needs to recover. So the wide players for me, physical profile's got to be spot on, high intensity work, intelligent boys so they know their positional play, because sometimes in certain systems you're asked to come inside, like Saka may come inside at Arsenal and allow Ben Wright to go down the outside. So little tactical moves that they're using. But for me, Rich, it's all about that final ball. So if you can get into the final third, there's lots of things open to you. You've gone past the last man, and I'm saying to myself, can you whip it in for the near post run for Jesus, for argument's sake? Or can you step it up to the back post if Martinelli's come round the back, just to put the finishing touch on that sort of ball? And if you've got a big centre forward that's pulled away on the back stick, then you have to have the ability to. It's no good getting in there. It's no good getting in there and just slapping it in. You've got to get in there beyond that defender, and you've got to step it up or whip it in. And that's what I think you're judged on if you're a wing back these days. And there's a lot of very, very good wing backs out there. Robertson at Liverpool can bomb on in a 4. Alexander-Arnold can bomb on a 4, although now he's inverted, he's coming inside and being more creative as a midfield player. So that's now starting to go on. So wide players for me, wingers, good crossing ability, great fitness levels, and again, character, composure, and there's some really good wide players out there. There's some speed merchants, a lot of speed merchants. Mudryk down at Chelsea is all about pace, pace, pace. I'm just hoping that he learns to slow himself down and deliver the right cross, because it's very important just to check slightly before you put your foot through the ball. Just check, have a peep, what's on? Is it near post? Is it back post? So ball selection from out wide is also important. Character, crossing the ball, fitness levels, intelligence. Yeah, I will want all those attributes for a wide player.
And one more thing there, just and the ability to beat someone, would you to be a one-on-one?
Absolutely, and it's amazing, Rich. Even at championship level, there's one-trick ponies. I know these boys because I log them and I watch them regular. They've only got the one trick. It might be a step over, it might be a drop of the shoulder, or they might always want to come inside. No, I think there's enough time at training grounds to work on outside of the defender, inside the defender. I'm not saying they should be doing Cruyff step overs and stuff like that, but you need lots of tricks in lots of tricks in your box if you can. You need to come up with different ways of beating defenders, because don't forget, Rich, that the defenders during the week are given a breakdown on what this particular. So if you're up against Saka and you're the left back for Liverpool, you pretty much know where he's going to go. He doesn't really want to go on his right. He will, but he wants to come inside. So if you position your body properly, you can push him in even more. And if you've got your midfield player ready to pick him off and you do your homework, you can nullify Saka. That's exactly what Brighton did against him. They nullified his threat, and we didn't see him for the game, which is quite sad.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I remember playing against some of the better players. They would shape to do what they think you would do, so a step over or Cruyff, but it would lead to something else. It's almost like a bluff, double bluff, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
They would show you one hand, but actually they're doing something else. They're adding another layer onto it.
Yes,
to try and outthink you.
But I think it's so important that whether you play, whichever system you play, whether you play 3-4-2-1 or whether you play 4-3-3. Width is so important for sides. It is so important. Sometimes we don't appreciate it on the telly, but if I'm lucky enough to watch Man City, the width that the Grealish is pretty much getting the old adage. He's getting chalk on his boots, Jack Grealish, because he has to stay there and stretch the opposition back four. And it depends who plays on the opposite side. If it's Mahrez, again, you can see a picture. If you took a picture from above, like from a looking down on the pitch, the width that City have got, and what a lot of the average, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but what of average football fans don't understand is what that's doing to the opposition back four is, Rich. It's pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you put an elastic band, where does it break? It breaks in the middle, doesn't it? So if you've got if you've got that width in your side, which Pep wants, that doesn't just break their back four and open it up and stretch it so it breaks in the middle. It also allows De Bruyne and whoever's playing on left hand side, whether it's whoever, it allows them the space to run through, and that's why City is so effective when they go after people. It's the width that they've got, and so width is so important in your side.
And then we'll move on to perhaps the last position. Then would be your centre forward or your centre forwards. And you mentioned Man City as the one to be. So perhaps we'd start with Haaland. Then maybe Al.
I think. Yeah, I've got a sneaky feeling we could be looking at the first robot in football that's been man-made. I think so. I think so because this boy is just going to continue. He's going to smash all the records. So anyway, he's got everything. First of all, they kick him. They try and fight him. Yerry Mina tried to beat him up last week at Everton. Failed miserably. He just keeps laughing. He just keeps smiling. So you're not gonna affect him mentally. He's strong as an ox. If you get too close, and you being the centre half, Rich, if you get too close, he's going to roll you and he's going to take you away if you're too close. So you need to be at least an arm off him. And if you're an arm's length off him, he's going to do damage anyway. He's the ultimate machine. He's absolutely fantastic. His finishing's fantastic. I was talking to I won't drop names, I talked to a very good coach recently about how has he managed to make all these fantastic runs in front of the ball, Rich, if you follow my drift. So De Bruyne's on the ball, and he's making these fabulous forward runs. Always into space, always ready to be picked out, and his finishing is just absolutely unbelievable. We're seeing the nearest thing I think we can see to not a robot. That's unfair on the boy, but he's big, he's strong, he's powerful. If the ball's played up, he proved in this game at the weekend at Everton, he just got in between defenders, buried the header. He can score all sorts of goals. He can run in behind you. He can hold it up. I don't know what he can't do, Rich. The only thing I would recommend is have a haircut if he gets a chance, because he let his hair down recently. He's not a good sight, is he? He's not
exactly.
Well, he's got better hair than my missus. I don't quite know. But anyway, so on strikers, there's different types of strikers, Richard. There's a lot of good number nines. I mean, Ivan Toney, I think it's a fabulous number 9. I think Harry Kane is right up there, but not with Haaland, just underneath him. Mitrovic is a different sort of 9 at Fulham. He's a bully. He's strong. He scores goals. So strikers for me, if you're going to play 4-3-3, you got your back four, and you know what we're going to do with the right back. He'll be introverted. You're going to have your midfield players. You're going to have a Rodri and 2 midfield players attacking. Your 2 wide players. I think if you're going to play the 4-3-3, you won't find anybody better than Haaland. Tony could play that role as well, but again, he's not the same level as Haaland. And I think if Haaland did move, hypothetically, for a ridiculous amount of money, then Harry Kane, I think, could play that role at Manchester City. Harry's got it all. Apart from the goals, Harry's got everything. The only thing that Harry hasn't got, and we knew this at Tottenham when I first started at Tottenham 20 years ago, and I used to go and watch Harry on loan when he was at Lake Orient and Norwich and clubs like that. My brief was to go and watch Harry. I always put down that he needed to be stronger, which he's done, but he hasn't got pace, Rich. He hasn't got that extra yard. So he's clever. Harry's a clever, cute striker that knows where to go, how to pull off people, where to be. He's got a gift of being in the right place at the right time. So pivotal strikers, big strikers that will play with their back to goal, Tony, Haaland, Kane, Mitrovic, these are your big number 9s, your pivotal strikers that will cause all sorts of problems. If you get the ball out wide, these boys will go after it in the box and score goals. Different types of strikers, not so many little strikers knocking around. But I'm just going to throw a name in there. Salah, Mohamed Salah at Liverpool. Yes, he's a wide player. I accept that. But most of the time he comes off the line and comes inside. So Mo Salah's got the low centre of gravity. He can twist and turn. You don't know which way he's going to go. He's not predictable. He can come inside. He can go outside. And he finishes just so comfortably, so calmly. So different types of strikers. Quick, sharp, busy strikers. Jermaine Defoe, who could play off of, say, Peter Crouch in a 2 up top. So the quick, sharp, fox in the box type striker, always hard to pick up, always hard to stop scoring goals. And the big centre forward. So if the ball was out wide for Tottenham when I was there, because they was there when I was there, if the ball was out wide, it was crossed into the box. Crouch, he could win the first header. And if he put the ball down, Defoe could finish the second ball. So different types of strikers. Different types of strikers. We've got good strikers in this country. We've got good strikers playing for England. So there's different types of strikers. But in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, you won't go far wrong if you went Haaland, Toney, Kane and Mitrovic, in my opinion.
With all their attributes, so with their first touch, finishing ability, strength, awareness, technical ability, all of those attributes.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, if it's okay, just on Toney, Ivan Toney, he's different to Haaland. He's different. He's very, very different to Kane. He will bully you. So you played centre back, Rich. You understand when you had a good, easy day or you had a really tough day, because I'd see your face in the dressing room, you'd have cuts and bruises. Tony would bully you. Tony would bully you. Tony would put his elbow into you. He wouldn't let you get up. He'd pin you down. He'd make life very, very difficult for you, and he scores goals. Harry would do it a different way. Harry's clever. He's cute. He's cunning. He's sly. He knows where to move. He doesn't need to bully a Harry Kane. He can do it with clever movement, sometimes not even moving. You'll understand what I mean by that. Sometimes not even moving, just standing still. You could kick him. doesn't bother him at all. Not bothered at all. You can kick him, you can swear at him, not bothered. Just gets on with the game. The one that the different one out of the four, the one that if you can get Mitrovic a yellow or red card if you're clever, because he's just waiting to explode at any minute. He's a warrior. Mitrovic is a warrior. Mm-hmm. He'll fight you, he'll bully you. So Harry Kane, good as gold. Ivan Toney, good as gold. Erling Haaland is, I don't want to be disrespectful, he's a robot. Richard, he's a robot, and he's gonna smash all the records under the sun. And good luck to him. He's a good kid, and I like his temperament. And going back to what we spoke about right at the start of our interview, is that character, temperament, so important to be a top player. So character, temperament. And then add all the attributes, the technical, the tactical, add all that to it, and you've got a top player. And when you've got all those attributes and you've got the character and the temperament, I think you play at Man City.
Absolutely. No, that's perfect, Alan. Thank you for your examples. I just wanted to. We started on a quote, so I'm just going to finish on a quote.
Yes.
So you mentioned attitude throughout.
Yes.
And I mentioned some of the athletic data and statistics and so on. But continuous effort, not strength or intelligence, is the key to unlocking our potential. And I think that's important if we're looking at the high level, because that was a quote by Leanne Cards, who's a successful author, is that the effort is also important amongst this. So one of the attributes amongst all the players that we've mentioned is the effort and the attitude, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Top man, top coach, and top scout. You're one of the most knowledgeable, charismatic people that I know in the game. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, Richard, it's been my pleasure. And having signed you and had you under my wing, I can categorically state that you was, without doubt, probably one of my favourite centre-backs, because your pedigree was good. You came from the Arsenal. You did everything I wanted you to do, and your temperament was good and your attitude was good. And it was a pleasure working with you, Rich. And it's been a pleasure doing this podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Al.
You're more than welcome, Rich. Take care.
Utter Worldie.